We're going to bring y'all into our huddle.
Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2013, and you are in the NBA Huddle with me, Bram. With me, as always, my boy and producer, Scott.
Scott here.
Scott, a bunch of stuff has happened since our last podcast, man. More specifically, Summer League has started. Aliens may or may not have abducted Baron Davis, and the league is getting ready to say goodbye to the best commissioner in sports. So you know we got big things to talk about. In our Warriors update, we're going to try to predict where Golden State now stands following all their offseason moves. It might be a little bit premature, but I think it'll be kind of fun. And we're also going to check in on Vegas and talk about all the various Warriors Summer League performances so far. In the look around the league, we're going to go through a recent and incredibly strange Baron Davis podcast appearance. Unfortunately, it wasn't on this show, where he describes an incident where he may have been abducted by aliens while driving back from Las Vegas to Los Angeles. Did you hear that clip?
Very strange.
I mean,
very strange.
What the hell was going on? I mean, we don't have to talk about it now. We're going to in a second, but I'm looking forward to that segment. And then finally, in a return to WTH, one that was prompted by David Stern's decision to retire after this past season, we're going to try to figure out what the hell were the most entertaining / important portions of David Stern's very impressive career. But first, man, a little bit of housekeeping. Now, this part you know, we got to say it for as long as they're willing to have us. We are, in fact, still a sponsor of Uber. You guys know my position. If you do not have the time or the inclination to not only have to go out there and find a cab while you're hammered, but to go to an ATM or whatever and get the money to pay for it, check out Uber, man. All you got to do is press a button and they come to you.
Your love for Uber got me to sign up this past weekend and try it for the first time.
Oh, how'd it go?
Really enjoyed it. It helped that it had the promo code Uber East Bay X that got me $20 off my first ride. But
did you practice putting in that little prompt at the end of the story?
Nope.
No, is that why it came off kind of?
Off the dome.
It seemed like it came.
Nope,
came
off
a little
the dome.
Bit really, just
off
like
the dome.
that. Pretty nice car they sent for you, or?
We did one of those like the Uber X cars, so it was a Prius clean, not the black car.
Yeah, well, is it good that after I pimped this thing out like over and over and over again, I have not used it since the first time we became their sponsor?
I don't even think you have it on your phone. I think it was on Erica's, right?
That might be true. May or may not be true, but it does not stop me from loving the actual product. Housekeeping part number 2. We got a bunch of comments back from episode 28, some of which came from Justin's website, Trapped in Golden State. One of the guys who commented was a screen name named a pimp named Slickback, who said that he really liked the podcast, but he didn't like the quote-unquote potty mouth. I'm going to go ahead and say, no, I'm not sure. He may have been talking about me. He may have been talking about you. Did you get a sense of which one he thought the potty mouth was?
I agree with his take, but kind of ironic coming from a guy who calls himself a pimp named Slickback.
A little.
And I've gone down to his Twitter has some pretty foul stuff on it itself. So the questionable guy to call you out on the potty mouth.
Well, again, I'm not willing to concede that it was me. I mean, you've sworn before. Maybe he was looking at you. Just in case it was me, a few things. One, a pimp named Slickback. I apologize. I will try to keep this as F-bomb free as I possibly can. 2, just like Scott mentioned, I hope and trust that you found the irony involved in you dropping those takes. You may want to consider changing your name to a pimp named kindergarten teacher. And finally, 3, go f*** yourself. All right. And finally, and this one I feel a little embarrassed about, but I promised him I would do it. Happy birthday to my boy Keenan out in Oakland, man. We appreciate you listening. All right, let's talk about Warriors. And let's kind of pick up where we left off last time, man. We listed off all the moves that the Warriors have made since the offseason began, the addition of Iguodala, the loss of Landry, the loss of Jack, all those things we talked about last week. What we didn't talk about was where the Warriors stand as things are right now in the Western Conference, given all the moves. You thought about it?
No, I think it's too premature to talk about this. There's free agency still going on. The Warriors roster isn't final. So why would I start kind of theorizing about where they're going to be in the West?
Scott, have you ever listened to Sports Talk fucking radio? I mean, all we do is talk about things that don't really matter prematurely.
It's usually a little better time than this.
I feel like this is perfectly timed, and I have thought about it because I actually put some preparation into the show. Apparently, unlike your punk ass.
Okay, what did you come up with? What great theory are you going to throw out, which I can then totally punk you with down the road when things change
Great, amazing. You can take this to the bank. In fact, if you go to Vegas to go check out the second half of Summer League, see if you can place this exact bet. Here is my standings in the West as things stand today. 1, Thunder. 2, Clippers. 3, San Antonio. 4, the Warriors, 5 Houston, 6 Memphis, 7 Dallas, 8 New Orleans. What do you think?
I think you're giving short thrift to Houston.
Now, I knew that you were going to say that because I got a little notes right here. Here's what I'm thinking about why Houston isn't necessarily better than the Warriors. Let me concede first. They got better talent. The addition of Howard makes them real dangerous, and you add in Harden and Lynn and Ashik and all the other guys who are there. I concede that roster, top to bottom, might be better than the Warriors. Here's what we don't know. How those guys play together. First and foremost, we don't know. I mean, we know that Howard's finally happy, so maybe some of the immaturity issues are aside. I've spent, 45 minutes discussing Howard's health concerns. I won't go back through them now, but there are concerns to me. We don't know which Howard shows up, so it's a possibility that his back is kind of screwed, in which case they take a giant back seat. But two, we don't know how these guys play together. We haven't seen them take one dribble, make one pass, take a single shot, so we can't say that the synergy between this team actually works. And then more than that, what we've heard since the Howard edition is that Omer Ashik is real upset, right?
Yeah, he wants to be traded, and they're not gonna make that happen. So
exactly right. Now maybe he just goes back into the fold, loves having Howard, and everybody goes off happily ever after. But maybe not. Maybe there's some kind of nastiness in the locker room, in which case it gives us a shot. I talk you into it.
If Houston starts winning, Ashik will be pretty happy with where he's at, I think. So I don't think that's going to be a big issue once the season gets started.
Yeah.
Why the Clippers at number 2? That's a little high.
I thought that the addition of Doc Rivers makes them real tough, and they've also done nothing but add to the overall team. I mean,
they lost my boy Chauncey Billups returning home to the Pistons.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought he just died. He is actually going to another team?
Yeah, he's going to the Pistons, and just came out today with a quote saying that he's going to be their starting point guard.
That makes me so happy, not for Chauncey, but just so that I now know I get to make fun of you all year with old man Billups. Well, with all due respect to the loss of Chauncey, I should probably not be playing any more Billups. They've added a bunch of pieces, man. Like things like J.J. Redick, re-signing Matt Barnes, bringing in Rivers just as I suggested. I mean, I think that this team, unfortunately, is poised to take another step. I don't think they make the finals. I still think the Thunder are better, but that's not a bad team, man.
We'll see. It's all a little premature at this moment. A lot of things can still happen in the offseason.
What about San Antonio? I'm surprised you didn't give me shit about that. I mean, I wanted to push them way down. I mean, how old is Tim Duncan going to be next year? Like 67?
That's why you have to wait till closer to the season starts to make these predictions. Who knows? I mean, Ginobili could break his ankle again this summer.
If you had just spent this entire segment making fart sounds, it would have been a better addition to you consistently shithousing it. I mean, we're like 30 seconds in now. You can't just accept the premise and participate, or what?
I've participated too much in this already. I'm ready to move on.
I tell you what, give me your standings for the 2018 season. Go.
You will just beat the subject into the ground. Let's go.
All right. Let me give you just 2 more teams that I wanted to include, and then I won't. Or then we can move on, rather. 1, Minnesota. I think that they are going to definitely be in the conversation for that 8th seed. 2, Portland. I'm not sure where they go. They probably don't get in, but I did want to include them. And then 3, a team that I did mention, but I want to add something for, New Orleans. I had them at the 8th seed. With the moves they've made, they are my official League Pass team. I think that's going to be a real exciting team to watch, and rumors surfaced today that while it's a long shot, they're looking at Greg Oden, and they might add yet another face to that franchise. That could be kind of exciting to watch, no?
They'll be a fun team for sure. You just have to get over the name Pelicans.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I heard somewhere that they picked that name because of the oil spill. You read that?
No.
We spent all this time shithousing the term Pelicans, and it turns out it might have a feel-good reason behind it. The article said that after the oil spill, they had all this footage of pelicans who were covered in oil going out and getting food for other pelicans that were so screwed up they couldn't actually fend for themselves, and that the ownership group loved it so much that they ultimately adopted the name. Here's why I think that might be bullshit. How is that not in the original press release? They wouldn't have wanted to use that to get some kind of good tidings for the name change, but just in case, you should feel really bad about yourself for making fun of them. I've always been really supportive of pelicans.
You've now, I think, topped what used to be the number 1 animal story on the podcast, Clifford Ray saving a dolphin's life. Good job.
Well, I have my moments, Scott. I have my moments. Now I'm finally ready to start moving on here. Let's look at Vegas. Let me first say I am so pissed off that I didn't actually get to go to Vegas to watch some of these Summer League games.
I got to get there one of these years. It is just a great time. And it just looks like it keeps getting better and better. you have more people showing up for it, and it's becoming a bigger event.
And they turn it into a tournament now towards the end. So, you can kind of watch the tournament structure, which I always like. If you had kids playing in a tournament, I could probably get behind it because I like the whole, tournament aspect. But
next year will be really the year to go because that draft class is going to be sick. This year, we talked about it before, not a lot of players that I'm interested in watching. Still would have liked it and gone, but next summer, that's definitely going to be a lot of fun.
What's up? Let's go. You down?
Yeah.
All right, it's on. Let's also add the idea of adding the of playing the Summer League in Vegas to the greatest NBA ideas ever list, alongside maybe we should have a 3-point shot, and how about we limit the shot clock to 24 seconds? I mean, whoever it was who came up with that, good for you, sir. You are amazing, and we absolutely appreciate your contributions to the league. A couple of Warriors Summer League wins so far. They played your terrible shitbird Wizards on July 13th, beat them 56-52 in kind of a slow game. And then on July 15th...
Wow, they're that bad, but they only got beat by 4 points.
It should also, and we'll go through it, but it should also reflect the Wizards played their top 3 draft pick, Otto Porter. The Warriors had, as I'm sure you remember, 0 draft picks who played in that game, and they still beat them. And then July 15th, v Sacto, they beat them 80-66, and they're actually playing right now, I think, in a game against the Bucks. You read about or watch any of these guys?
Yeah, I've read about the games, and I couldn't help but focus a little bit on the Wizards in that Warriors game, but mainly because you saw Otto Porter, the Wizards' number 3 pick, get absolutely shut down by Bazemore. Otto Porter that was a tough first round draw to have Bazemore as the guy defending you all game.
I feel like Otto Porter is a terrible NBA name. It seems like a hockey player or like a major league soccer name or something.
Yeah, it does seem like that. That's correct.
See, I felt good about it.
I agree with you. But Bazemore, that guy's defense, it's just unbelievable. He's got those long arms, which allow him to recover. I think he's 6'3" with a 6'11" wingspan. And he has pretty much just really good instincts. He can predict kind of where people are going to be moving and just really reads defense or reads the offense really well.
I completely agree. I did have a chance to watch the 2 games, not live, like we said. I got that application on the iPad, which works pretty well, incidentally.
Yeah. It's nice that they do the replays.
No, I love it. It takes a minute to come up. So, like, if you miss the game, you got to wait like 6 or 7 hours before they show you the replay. But you do get to watch the whole thing. There were a few players I wanted to talk about. Let's start with Bazemore. You've already done it. And let me first agree. He is a phenomenal perimeter defender. We saw that a little bit last year. In fact, Coach Jackson would literally end with Bazemore, right? When the quarter would be ending or the half would be ending, and they had like 24 seconds or less, you'd see Bazemore come out there and be the go-to defender. Apparently, nothing's changed. In those first 2 games, he stopped Otto Porter, the number 3 pick. In the next game, he stopped the number 7 pick. Ben McLemore, exactly right, and held them both to terrible lines. So not only is he not taking a step back, looks like he's getting a little bit better in that area.
And this was a good development to see because earlier this summer he was playing at the SF Pro-Am, and I went over at Kezar Stadium and saw him play. His jump shot looked really broken. I think it was just probably a really off shooting night for him, and I think in those games these stars have a lot of pressure put on them to do these unbelievable performances.
Somewhere he's thanking you for using the word star in there. I was actually just going to ask you, you and I have been to a few of these games. Last year, what did we see? Tyreek Evans. How was Bazemore's reception? Was there a lot of people there to watch him? Was he a noted star? I mean, what'd you feel?
He was definitely a noted star, and he handles being an NBA player in just a way that I really respect. After the game, he hung around for 15 minutes just on the court, signing autographs, taking pictures with people. Now, you could say this guy is really enjoying being an NBA player because he might not be around for very long.
Exactly what I was going to say, yeah.
But you have to just appreciate that attitude and that love for the position and that he's in. I think he's a good role model for other young NBA
I don't
stars.
think he goes anywhere. I don't think this is momentary. Even if he doesn't last with the Warriors, I think he has done enough to carve himself out, if nothing else, a back of the bench move. A couple other observations on Bazemore, and then let's move on. He looks capable of running backup point guard. Not all the time, certainly he's not going to be the first person off the bench. That'll probably be Iguodala, I guess, maybe Douglas actually too. But it looks like if push came to shove and they put the ball in his hands, he could do it. He was initiating the offense fairly well. Like you said, reading what he needed to read and was making some fairly good decisions, which is encouraging to see.
Looked better than Scott Machado.
Much, which is the second guy. Before we move on, let me echo what you said. Bazemore's jumper is broken. I don't know if he needs a shooting coach. I don't know if we need to change the way he's letting it go. Maybe he's just nervous, but that's a giant hole in his game. Machado doesn't look ready. He was one of the guys I really wanted to see during the Summer League because we got to get a sense, can he help us? And now that he's a little bit expendable because we got Douglas, all I wanted to know is whether or not he could bring the ball up competently and could get into the lane. Now, the first of those, he can bring the ball up. He wasn't dribbling off his foot or some shit, wasn't making those type of mistakes. And he can also get in the lane. What he cannot do is make a shot, man. And it wasn't like that he was off. He just kept getting tossed. He couldn't get the ball up and over the bigs. If that's happened in the Summer League, it's a good bet that it's probably going to happen in the regular season too.
Also, you have Nedovic kind of lurking on the sidelines too, as somebody who's going to maybe take his spot. It's too bad we don't get to see Nedovic this summer because
it sucks, man.
It would have been really great to see whether or not he is going to be better than Machado or if Machado's going to be the guy.
Also, in related news, like I mentioned last time, his nickname is the European Derrick Rose. Who the hell doesn't want to see a European Derrick Rose give it to fools in Summer League? I remember watching Marco Bellinelli, who didn't have anywhere near of a badass nickname, put up 55. So I'm thinking the Euro D Rose would have put up like 80, but we're kept from seeing it. Last guy, Summer League, Draymond Green. If you've only read about it, you haven't had a chance to see. The guy has lost 18 pounds.
Looking like he's in shape.
The word that came to mind for me was svelte, mainly because I never get to use that word, so I got all fired up about using it now. Not only has he lost weight, he is also still showing that trademark hustle. Guy was diving for ball, setting nasty screens, doing all the little things you expect during the regular season. If he's doing that shit in Summer League as a second-year player who's already established himself, you got to give that dude credit.
And his jumper's still looking good. It's like he carried what happened in the postseason, which blew my mind, into the offseason, into the Summer League, and hopefully that continues because I always thought his jumper was broke, but it's not.
Now, this part I'm going to disagree with you on. I thought that he looked terrible jumper-wise.
Really?
Yes. He had a couple of real ugly J's, and what I remember thinking to myself was, how the hell was he making those shots in the postseason? Like, he made a deal with the devil or something.
I don't know. I disagree on this. I didn't think it was that bad.
Well, considering that you read and I watched.
I saw some highlights, which I guess do often show you the highlights.
You mean they didn't show you any highlights of him missing jumpers?
Another guy I want to mention, though, is Ian Clark. Didn't really do anything in that Wizards game, but against the Kings, he was their third leading scorer.
Who is he?
He's a guy from Belmont University,
which
is in Nashville, Tennessee.
I thought I was going to bust you out there, too. I thought you were going to be like, I have no idea.
Yeah, no, this guy, in his last season at Belmont, shot 45.9% from the three-point line.
Let the record reflect this fool Scott is coming off the top with this. Doesn't even have it in his notes.
Not even in my notes, man.
Ooh, I'm thinking that you looked it up right before we did this podcast, but nonetheless, man, nicely played.
It's kind of crazy to envision this team having another guy who is just a knock-him-down shooter.
Yeah.
But he seems to be one of those guys. Maybe we'll see if he can keep it up. Kind of a nice addition.
These guys have a great eye for talent, man. We were talking about it yesterday. We were talking about it last week when I was saying I'm not so worried that they gave up those draft picks with the trade to get Iguodala because they've got such a great scouting system that even if you don't have draft picks to bring people in, it looks like they've got eyes all around the league, all around the college system to bring in people who can help. Maybe Ian Clark is a perfect example. Last Summer League topic, this has to do with the first game. The one against the Wizards. The announcers were phenomenal. It was Reggie Miller, Steve Kerr, kind of a treat for a Summer League game.
That's amazing. That's again, Vegas keeps getting better.
We should definitely be there. And during one segment, Mark Jackson joined them to discuss all things Warriors, the past, the future, the whole 9 yards. A couple of things I wanted to bring through, three in fact. One, at one point, Kerr asked Reggie Miller, okay, we're all three on the same team. We're going down on the break. We need a three. Reggie's on your right. I'm on your left. Who do you give it to? Who would you give it to?
I give it to Steve Kerr.
Wow. Well, Jackson disagreed with you, said he'd give it to Reggie Miller, and then he said it's because I got a little history with him. Two, after they went through that back and forth, Steve Kerr pointed out, yeah, but if we had that three, we'd be the worst defensive backcourt in the history of the league. I loved that he made fun of him like that, and as opposed to like saying, no, you're wrong, they both just laughed hysterically, apparently agreeing. And then finally, three, and certainly most pertinently, they asked him, okay, Iguodala's coming in. Harrison Barnes had a hell of a season. Who's starting? And Jackson, predictably and probably prepared for it, said that nothing's set, that we're going to figure this out when we go into training camp. Everyone's going to have to earn their spot. And the way that he's looking at it right now, regardless of who starts, they got 6 starters, and they're going to dole out the minutes accordingly. So it was kind of a non-answer, but it's kind of entertaining hearing him talk about it.
Yeah, that's a very coach answer. You can't expect anything more than that.
Right.
Because there's no chance that some of these guys don't start. Like, Steph Curry is not going to have to compete for his minutes. Iguodala is not going to have to do that. It comes down really to Barnes versus Klay Thompson starting.
Yeah, when he started to talk about it, I was like, oh, here comes the answer. And then afterwards, I felt like he said something. And then the more I thought about it, I realized he didn't say shit. But I wanted to report it back to you. All right, look around the league. Now, I've been looking forward to this one, man, because this is crazy strange. Baron Davis was a member of, what podcast is it?
It's called The Champs with Neil Brennan, who co-wrote The Chappelle Show, and that guy, Moshe Kasher. He's a comedian.
You love this podcast.
I love this podcast. I listen every week. They have great guests,
yeah,
and
to the
they're
point
hilarious.
where I get kind of angry about how much you enjoy it. It seems like you probably like it more than our podcast.
I do.
Okay, really? If I ask you that again, will you lie to me?
No.
God damn it, Scott. Well, we'll try it later on. Well, in this in particular instance, they had Baron Davis on towards the end. I don't even remember the question that prompted it, but Baron Davis tells this story about getting abducted by aliens.
Equality?
Alien
Good
takeover
question.
shit.
Yeah.
Like
Equality
5 years.
Alien takes.
I was
They're
actually
here
abducted
already.
by aliens like 2 weeks ago.
Is that
Tell us
right?
about that.
Yeah, I was on my way from Vegas here to LA, and I'm driving. You know, like the windy road.
Yeah.
When you're coming in, like that's like on this like crazy slant.
Yeah.
So I'm a little tired and shit, and I see this light, and I think it's a big ass truck. You know, like oh fuck, like it's gonna be traffic, and I was just driving, and next thing you know, dude, like I was in this fucking like steel thing, and these fucking crazy looking people, like half human, half like fucking ugly motherfuckers. It's like
I just need to
fucking.
say that
they kept
we don't
poking
know
me.
if you're being serious.
up
or
until
not.
this point, you've been such a cogent and
Dude, they were
right
like,
down the
they
middle.
were poking me on my nose and shit. They were poking me on my nose, and they were like looking me in my eyes. They had my hands like tied up, and then next thing you know, like I was fucking in Montebello, dude, like burning rubber on the way back to LA. It was like 4:00 in the morning.
Did that actually happen?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Are you being for real?
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
I don't even know where to begin on that. I mean, I really, really don't.
I listened from the beginning of the show, and the guy Moshe talks about it, how the whole episode he'd been giving, Moshe calls it cogent answers,
Yeah.
which is totally true. He'd been very thoughtful, like funny, normal.
Yeah.
And this comes out of nowhere, and he's so, deadpan about it all, that you really don't know if he's serious or not.
That was even my question. I mean, like, there's no vocal inclinations that show you, like, okay, he's joking here, you know.
Well, there's no inclination that he thinks this is out of the normal.
Right. No, that's exactly right. Like, anybody who apparently drives back from Vegas may or may not find themselves in a steel cage getting poked in the nose by half human, half ugly motherfuckers. And at what point did aliens start poking fools in the nose? I thought it was kind of an anal probe situation.
I'd never heard of the nose poke.
Yeah. So as you sit here right now, joking? Was it true? I mean, where are you on this?
I can tell you, I listened to the rest of the podcast after this, and there's never any discussion about. He never kind of owns up like, "Hey, I was just kidding around about that." It stays just like, "Yeah, I got abducted by aliens." I mean, I don't know.
Well, congratulations to Baron Davis for a couple of things. One, getting out of that steel cage while getting poked in the nose. Nobody would like to stay there, I'm sure, so thank God he's back with us. Two, for having another relevant moment in his career. I mean, it's been a while since we talked about him, and this seems to help.
Yeah, this blew up. It was on ESPN, all the blogs. I mean, everybody was talking about it. I think partly because it's just a very slow news time in the world.
And partly because it was an NBA player who got abducted by fucking aliens. So I got a quick Baron Davis story for you. I'm sure I've told you. Stop me if I have. You remember back before Southwest had the whole numbering system where they had the boarding groups A, B, C?
I don't remember when Southwest did that, but
Okay, well,
I will take your word for it.
That's what they used to do. You'd be either a part of the boarding group A, boarding group B, boarding group C, and you just line up, right? So they'd put all the A on, then when they were on, they'd go to B and then to C. I was at LAX, and I was the first dude in the line for boarding group B, and I look up, and it's Baron Davis, the last guy in boarding group A, and this is when he was a Golden State Warrior. So best player on my favorite team. I'm hella fired up. Immediately think, look, if there is a seat, because they still had open seating, there's a seat, I'm sitting next to them. I don't give a shit who else is there. I'm absolutely...
Yeah, you got to take advantage of that
I
moment.
mean, it is what it is, dude. I'm a definite whore, as I showed with my Chris Porter story, you know? So get on the plane, and Baron Davis is sitting on the window, and there's a seat right next to him in the middle, but the guy in the aisle is this giant fat dude. I mean, like 450 pounds. So fat that even though there's a seat between them, Baron Davis's knee and this fat dude's knee is touching in the middle seat.
Oh, you're not going to...
Despite that, I go in there, shimmy by the fat dude, and squeeze my fat ass in between them. I mean, it would have been less awkward if I just sat in Baron Davis's lap, you know? So,
I'd be so angry.
Oh my God, I immediately come in with this big canned ass smile, like, oh, hello. Like, I didn't... Baron Davis? Like, I suddenly just recognized him. Force this conversation, immediately ask him, you know, Baron, what are you doing on Southwest? Wouldn't you prefer to be on an airline that had first class? And without
shots fired at Southwest.
Well, I mean, I didn't mean to be like that. I wasn't sure. I was just trying to start the conversation. And he immediately says, every seat here on Southwest is first class. And I wasn't sure if he was joking. So just in case, I go, oh, like the most over-the-top fake laughter. He gets like kind of scared that people around me are jumping out of their seats, you know, and somehow I'm able to get beyond that super awkward beginning. The plane takes off, we're talking back and forth, and I establish some semblance of a conversation. Like, he seems to be comfortable. I feel like, you know, on top of the world.
You're throwing out crazy NBA knowledge.
Just left and right. I'm thinking we're going to become best friends. Really best friends. I mean, I was willing to do anything. If he wanted to sleep with me on the plane, I was, you know what, I was in. And at one point he gets up and goes, I got to go to the bathroom. And thinking that I'm a comedic genius, I say, you know, Baron, I'm a huge Warrior fan, but I'm not going to let you piss on me. Well, something gets lost in translation, and as he's walking past me, and I'm 95% certain he heard me say, I'm a huge Warriors fan. Why don't you just go ahead and piss on me? It's because when he goes to the bathroom, he comes back. We got another 50 minutes on this flight, and he fake sleeps the entire time. Fool's holding a glass of water with his head against the window, would occasionally wake up, take a sip of the water, and then fake sleep again out there. Strangely enough, he hasn't called me since. You know, I keep waiting for this friendship to take off. So, remember to you, Baron, I really apologize for the misunderstanding. I just didn't want you to piss on me at all. You know, and feel free to give me a call at any point. I'm still here for you. I'd like to be your best friend.
I mean, even if he'd heard what you said, he may have had the same reaction. That is a very bold, terrible joke.
I don't even know if it was a joke. You know, I mean, like, of course it was a joke, but like, I'm not really sure what I was thinking. My palms were hella sweaty throughout this entire conversation.
Yeah, anytime you're making any comment to somebody about whether or not they can or can't pee on you.
No, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think we can agree it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyways, I do have a little bit of a history with Baron. So when I heard the alien thing, I felt for him. He's one of my best friends.
If I could fake sleep through the rest of this podcast now, I think I might do it after having to be this close to you and telling pee stories.
I think you fake slept through the where do the Warriors rank in the West, asshole, so it's a little bit too late to be dropping that joke. All right, let's move on. Let's go to WTH. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, this week's WTH is inspired by David Stern. After years and years and years in the league as probably the best commissioner in sports history, David Stern has announced that last year was his last. We're not going to see him again. So we wanted to figure out the best or most entertaining portions of his career. Now, let's start with his presence in the draft. Now, it's pretty much common knowledge that David Stern has been the guy who has welcomed in most, if not all, of the biggest names in the league. And just in case you have forgotten that, listen to this little montage.
Welcome to the 1984 NBA Draft. The Houston Rockets select Hakeem Olajuwon, Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley of Auburn University.
The Orlando Magic selects Shaquille O'Neal,
Dwayne Wade,
Scott Pippen, Blake Griffin.
Like his use of Scott Pippen.
Yeah, did you like that? I like the kind of canned music in the background too.
Yeah, that was perfect for that video. Now, a moment, David Stern is synonymous with the draft. He kind of, I mean, that's an iconic moment every year. Can't help but mention the fact that he always gets booed by the crowd, which is it's a fantastic moment and one that he's just come to completely embrace. And he just like plays with the crowd, gets them riled up. I love it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, we think of him and like actually welcoming these people in, but really David Stern's presence in the draft is getting the shit booed out of him and him not giving a single fuck about it. Here's a clip from this year's draft, 2013.
we've had to explain to our international audience that the boo is an American sign of respect.
What a pimp that fool is.
He just owns it.
He's like a WWF villain, like the $1 Million Man, like Ted DiBiase or whatever. I mean, the whole time they're booing him, he's standing there just smiling, loving it. I've seen him do even the Hulk Hogan move where he puts his hand and cups it behind his ear, like, bring your booze. You are better than that, man. You gotta love that.
No, it's a great moment. I'm gonna miss him. I don't think Adam Silver is gonna be able to do the same job. I think they should bring David Stern back to do the draft every year, even in retirement.
I think he should do the draft of every single league. I think it should be mandated. Obama needs to step in. Congress needs to realize what we're losing here and make sure he's there. Now, not all of David Stern's moments were funny or light. Another thing that I thought was just phenomenal in his career was this fight with Jim Rome.
New Orleans won the draft lottery, which of course produced the usual round of speculation that maybe the lottery was fixed. I know that you appreciate a good conspiracy theory as much as the next guy. Was the fix in for the lottery?
I have two answers for that. I'll give you the easy one. No, and a statement. Shame on you for asking.
I understand why you would say that to me, and I wanted to preface it by saying it respectfully. I think it's my job to ask because I think people wonder.
No, it's ridiculous, but that's okay.
I know that you think it's ridiculous, but I don't think the question is ridiculous because I know people think that. I'm not saying that I do, but I think it's my job to ask you that.
Have you stopped beating your wife yet?
I think I understand why you're frustrated by that. I think that I understand why that would upset you. I would hope that you would not hold that against me.
I wouldn't hold it against you.
And I don't want to ask you a question by, here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to say, hey, Commissioner, people would say, because I'm going to ask a direct question. But people did wonder. But that was not a cheap thrill.
Well,
I got no thrill out of that.
It's a cheap trick.
No, flopping is a cheap trick.
No. But listen, you've been successful in making a career of it, and I keep coming on.
Making a career of what, though? Commissioner said that I take great offense to that. Making a career of what?
What offense?
Cheap thrills?
Are you taking offense?
I am now. Now I am. If you're saying that I've made a career of making cheap thrills.
Your time, taking on the world, and now Jim Rome is pouting. I love it.
No, I'm not pouting. I take offense. There's a difference between pouting and taking offense. I take offense to that like you took offense to the question. What if I said, were you pouting when I asked the question?
Taking offenses. You want to hang up on me?
No, I can't hang up on you because I'm running out of time. I would never hang up on you.
Okay. Listen, I got to go call somebody important like Stephen A. Smith now. He's up next.
This might be my favorite part of his career. I listened to this one live and remembered I could not believe what I was listening to. Let's start with, I think, his most important point, when he kind of subtly drops, have you stopped beating your wife yet?
Oh, he totally flipped it on him.
Yeah.
He came up with an equally ridiculous, unsubstantiated premise and just, boom, dropped it on him.
And it's the whole idea if you can't unring the bell. Like, look, Rome, if you're going to throw out there, even if it's in jest, that I fixed the draft, then fuck you. I'm going to throw out that, in jest, you beat your wife. You get out of that. I mean, it shows a bunch of things. One, he's smart, good on his feet, knows exactly how to communicate what he's trying to say. Two, he's not intimidated. He doesn't care if he's on the radio or anywhere else. He's talking to the guy who's supposedly synonymous with shock jock sports radio, and he's the guy who punks him. I mean, that is so great to me.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. What a joy to listen to this live. I mean, that must have been, as this whole thing unfolded, just kept getting better and better to the point where, he ultimately completely punks him by just saying, I got to go call Stephen A. Smith, someone more important.
Oh, and is the great Jim Rome pouting? Towards the end, it almost felt like watching a little kid get punked by a bigger kid in like a junior high playground. Like he pinned him to the ground and spit on his chest because he knew he couldn't do anything about it. Now, I would generally not like that kind of power dynamic. Making somebody a victim, making them look stupid. But if you're going to handpick someone who deserves it, or at least should be able to handle it, it's Jim Rome, right?
That's what makes this thing so great, is there would be no one better to do this to than Jim Rome.
And can you think of any other commissioner? Sports commissioners don't do this kind of stuff, right?
And he's so under control while this thing's happening. There's never once a moment where he is kind of a little out of control, which in the heat of a moment, and that's what Jim Rome is trying to do,
right,
is even if Jim Rome is getting punked, at the end of the day, he's fine with getting punked if the other guy loses his cool.
Absolutely.
And David Stern doesn't do that at all.
Like Chris Everett when he beat the hell out of him. Do you remember the movie The Terminator?
Yeah.
There's a scene in The Terminator where someone's talking to him. It's Terminator 1. And he goes through all the possible responses in his head. They show the screen that the Terminator sees. It goes through like 1,000 responses in like 2 seconds and then picks out the best one. In that case, it was like F you, asshole, or something. I view the exact same thing with D. Stern. You know, like he went through like each possible response he could have had to all these things, picked out the exact one that one, communicated his thoughts, two, put Rome in his place, and then just dropped a hammer. Last one that's worth mentioning, at least for me, was the Tim Donaghy scandal. Just to set the table, I'm sure everyone remembers, 3-4 years ago, all these allegations came out. In fact, not allegations, admissions that Tim Donaghy was fixing games. Tim Donaghy, NBA referee, was taking bribes from the mob and was in fact fixing games. And what Stern was able to do is not only nip it in the bud, put this guy in his place, but somehow made this thing disappear. I mean, if you think about the risk of this, you know, like if the general public accepts that these games are fixed, NBA is done. You know, I mean, it becomes a WWF. Nobody's watching it. Not only did he stop it, have you heard anybody use the word Tim Donaghy in the last 2 years?
I haven't heard anyone use the word Tim Donaghy. I haven't had anyone use any type of, or I haven't had anyone question whether or not this is still going on or other refs doing it, even though Donaghy came out and said, it's not just me, there's other people doing
Specifically said it. The Stern's ability to sweep things under the rug and makes them disappear. Look at Kobe's rape allegation. You know, now it's in the past, you know, that whatever legal thing had to happen, happened. He's no longer being accused of it. But the Lakers have played Denver at least twice in the playoffs in Denver. And I have not seen one sign, I have not heard one cheer suggesting that Kobe Bryant is a rapist. There's no way they weren't there. None. You know, I mean, the people brought it, but Stern has been able to control these broadcasts where you don't hear it, see it, even think about it.
Yeah, this is another example where he has, the Donaghy scandal I'm talking about, where he's saved the league.
Yeah.
And he's done it time and time again. You know, after Malice in the Palace, he institutes the dress code,
right,
which I think helped clean up the image, and people were starting to get, you know, really tired of the NBA, and he just constantly is doing things like that.
He's reading the public, understanding what the hell they want, or more specifically, perhaps don't want, and then is tailoring the league to make sure that they meet those exact wants or don't wants. Did you see how Donaghy was fixing the games, by the way? Did you ever look into that?
I did, but you're a gambling man and could explain it better than I could.
It was genius. When you think about a game that's fixed, you think that if you go back, you'll notice it. You know, that one team is getting more calls than the other team. But Donaghy wasn't working with the spread. He wasn't favoring one of the teams. There's something out there called the over-under. They give you a number. So let's say Warriors play the Lakers, the over-under will be 110. What that means is that you combine both teams' ending scores, come up with a final figure, and then you guess whether or not it's going to be over or under that figure, right? What Donaghy was doing was calling both teams exactly the same way, but he was calling it real tight. He was putting them, each team into the bonus, sending them to the free throw line, and then continuing to call fouls so that he was putting each team to the free throw line multiple times. What he was doing is just making sure the over was a lot. He's getting both teams to score all these points, so of course they're going to be at the over. He wasn't determining the outcome, so you never really thought like, he was favoring one way or the other. If someone hadn't ratted him out, I think they could have done this forever. That thing was a genius scheme.
You really think that just more free throws every time is going to get above the over?
Absolutely.
I don't know. It stops the flow of the game.
He was getting points every single possession is what he was doing. You know, like and I imagine if he needed to, if the teams couldn't score it all, he was putting them on the line every single possession, stopping the clock and getting points up on the board.
Do we know what games he did it on and those he did? Because I would be really interested to know which ones he was calling more fouls and whether or not what the over-under was and
we will
and
never
how it was
know
successful.
Because David Stern is good at what he does. Man, you got any other D. Stern moments?
I like D. Stern's honesty overall, and you saw a little bit in the Jim Rome discussion, but another example of it was after LeBron James did the decision.
Yeah.
Stern comes out, and makes this comment about the number one star in the league, says, "This decision was ill-conceived, badly produced, and poorly executed." Just basically destroying LeBron. He's not scared to do it.
No, and most commissioners would never take shots at any of their stars, let alone the biggest and the brightest. So no,
he doesn't care if LeBron comes after him.
Hell no. Why the hell would he? This is David Stern, fool. We're going to miss you, D. Stern. Like we said, you should be the commissioner for every single draft. Anytime you feel like coming back, we would love to have you. I'm sure I speak for all fans across the world in saying you'll be missed. Quick quote before we get out of here, big man. Back to the world of basketball we go. Shaquille O'Neal was once asked about his lack of championships, and he answered, "I've won at every level, except for college and pro." Huge fun kicking with you guys. Please remember, we can be found at Twitter at NBA Huddle. Our Gmail is NBAHuddle@gmail.com. Our websites, Let's Go Warriors and NBAHuddle.com. And finally, we're on iTunes. Get out there, download us, please, and give us a 5-star review. You guys are hella fun. Hopefully, we'll see you next week.
So take us through a day in the life of the boss.
Well, the first thing I do is
talk to corporate, approve memos, lead a workshop, remember birthdays, direct workflow, my own bathroom, micromanage